I just received a package, so let's open it. Hi everyone, it's Beta aka Saku here on the internet, and as a lot of you guys may know, I am an animator. So up until now, I've mostly been using my school's equipment for a lot of my animations, but as I'm about to graduate soon, and as I'm about to tread down my career journey as a freelance illustrator / animator, I realized that I really do need a good home setup, which I am lacking right now. So I'm very fortunate to collaborate with Huion for this video as they sent me their Kamvas 13 Generation 3. I'm really excited to review this tablet because not only is it a screen tablet which is optimal for animation, it's also pink. So yeah, I'm so excited to test it out, but also Huion and I will be hosting a giveaway together. So if you actually want to win this tablet, you can head over to my Instagram, which all the information will be on there. I'll also link it in the pinned comments, so please check it out if you want to win this tablet. It's really awesome and I really love to give back to my community. The deadline of the giveaway will be 1 week from posting this video, so go right now. So yeah, this video will be a review of the tablet, but it'll also be me explaining my animation workflow. I've done a lot of animation process videos in the past, which if you're interested, I'll link them in the description below. But those videos are a lot more focused on storytelling because those are for my animated short films. But this video specifically, I want to focus more on the animation techniques, how to really make your animation pop, and I'll be doing this by animating a transformation sequence. And I don't mean a magical girl transformation sequence, but more of how the subject transforms to another and how to utilize transformation as a way to transition between scenes. This is mostly seen on the commercial side of things, which is less talked about, but I personally really find it super cool and awesome and satisfying to watch. So yeah, we'll be exploring that today. So without further ado, let's get animating. So the package actually came with quite a few things than just a tablet. Of course, there was the Kamvas 13, and there's also other things like the tablet stand, which you can adjust different angles. This little packet that included an artist glove, a cloth, and the manual, a pen holder with all the pen nibs inside, as well as a power adapter extension and a 3-in-1 cable. As for setup, it actually was quite confusing at first. I've used Huion tablets in the past, but in those tablets they also gave you a USB-C to USB-C cord, which they didn't have in this one, so I was really confused, but I figured it out with the 3-in-1 cable, and I also installed the Huion driver for me to run the tablet on my computer. But right off the bat, I can see that the Kamvas 13 is a lot thinner and more portable and lighter than the previous canvases that I used. So as you can see behind me, everything is set up now. So without further ado, let's move on to the first stage. So before we actually animate, we have to do some planning beforehand, and this is what we call pre-production. For this little GIF sequence, I mainly had to do planning for two things. First was the storyboard, and second was the color script. When I was storyboarding this sequence, since it's not a story sequence, it was less about shots, stuff like close-ups or extreme wide angles and stuff like that, but rather how I can transition one subject to another. To fit with the theme of this video with everything being pink, I decided to do a little fan art sequence for Cardcaptor Sakura, which if you don't know is one of my favorite animes. So I also didn't want this sequence to be too long because, come on, it's animation. Like, the more length you would increase, the more work I had to do. So I had to figure out a really smart way to connect one to another. So there were 3 things I thought about when I was connecting these subjects together. Number 1 is shape. What similar shapes do these subjects have? The second thing is motion. How do I transition things through motion? And number 3 is through color. So if I zoom in into one color and then I zoom back out, it could be a totally different subject. So I was just thinking about how I could use these different aspects to connect the subjects for this little short animation GIF sequence together. So as for the color script, I wanted to really play around the colors for this. Because this is more of a transformation sequence, I decided to go for a lineless look this time. I've done lineless in the past, but I've mainly done animation with lines, so I really want to experiment with that. And because it's lineless, I wanted to also be really graphic, so that's why I chose a more saturate and vibrant color scheme. So yeah, with all that planning done, let's actually get animating now. So the next step is the actual animation portion. So for the past 1.5 hours, I finished up the rough animation for my little GIF sequence. And what I did is that I basically imported my really scratch drawings from my storyboard that I did on my iPad here onto TV Paint, which is the animation software that I use for most of my projects. So when I'm rough animating, there are always 3 things that I keep in mind. Number 1 is timing, number 2 is spacing, and number 3 is arcs. So if you don't know, every animation is usually done 24 frames per second, which means that for every second there are 24 frames, and you as an animator can decide how many drawings you want to do per second. For most older 2D hand-drawn animation, it is every 2 frames you would do 1 drawing, and this is also called on 2s, which means that you would do 12 drawings every second because 12 times 2 equals 24. For this animation specifically, I decided to do it on 4s because I feel like on 4s is still smooth enough that you can get away with, but it's not as much work compared to 2s, with maybe a little bit of 2 sprinkled throughout. Now, although all of my frames are on 4s, this doesn't mean that every frame has equal spacing. To achieve a more natural, believable movement in animation, you actually have to make your movement uneven. So what this means is basically utilizing slow in and slow out. Slow in and slow out is basically just making sure that your movement is slow when it starts and slow when it ends, while the middle is fast. Now how you do this is that usually if you start a movement, even though every frame is on 4s, the beginning, the spacing of the in-betweens will be much less, which means that much less distance traveled, which therefore equals slow compared to the middle, where you can have larger spacing, which means that the thing is moving faster, and in the end it slows down again. And this is one of the things that I never knew until I studied animation school, but after learning it, my teacher blessed me with this knowledge. I really utilize it in my works, and I truly see the difference on how the animation just looks so much more satisfying and better. Another thing is to keep in mind is your arcs. So imagine every drawing is going on a route to find its destination, but if one drawing goes off track, it kind of like glitches a little and it doesn't look as good. So it's reminding yourself of those things as well, and that basically constitutes timing, spacing, and arcs. 3 very important things in animation. So yeah, with that, I'm gonna start coloring this and I'll see you soon, which will probably be nighttime. Yeah. So I've been working on this animation for maybe the past 5 hours, and it's pretty late into the night now, so I might call it a day. But I just want to give a few thoughts on the tablet so far. I personally really like using this tablet. I don't have any problems with it, and the lag time is a lot better than the previous models, if I remember correctly. I remember there was like a slight delay, and even though I've been screen recording and watching YouTube videos at the same time, this tablet was able to draw with basically no lag or delay at all. I personally realized I'm not such of a button using person. They do have 2 dials that you can use. I personally just don't use them, but I think that's super cool because they don't have these in the previous models. Yeah, it just felt really natural to me. I used more screen tablets in recent years, mostly because of my school. So this really came second nature to me, and I didn't have any problems with it. I'll leave all the details of this product in the description if you would like to check it out. So yeah, I'm getting super tired, so I'm probably gonna call it a day, and I'll finish this up tomorrow. So good night. So as I finished up my animation the next day, I actually wanted to share a few more thoughts about the tablet. I was way too tired last night to really process what I was thinking and saying about the tablet, but now that I have the mental energy, I would like to share a bit more on my review for the Huion Kamvas 13 Generation 3. So what I really love about this tablet, as I mentioned, was how it felt really second nature to me, and I didn't realize it, but it's because this tablet has a lot of functions that was built in to make you feel like you were drawing so naturally. One thing I really love is its canvas glass, which has a paper texture, which kind of adds a little friction when you draw, which is a good thing because it emulates a paper screen, and also that it is wear resistant and corrosion resistant, which is really, really cool. Another thing that it is anti-glare, which is good because as an animator I stare at a screen for so long at a time, so having a glass that diffuses the screen, and even under strong light I can still read the screen without it being too harsh on my eyes, is something I really, really appreciate. Another thing I really like about this tablet is its pen. So instead of the usual 2 buttons, this pen actually has 3 buttons. For me, I mentioned earlier that I'm not a button girly for the graphic tablet itself, but I am a big button girly for the buttons on the pen, and I usually would set it to undo and the color eyedropper tool. But when I was using this specific application, which is TV Paint, I realized I wanted an extra button to move around the canvas, so I could do that with it, which is very, very helpful, and it helped streamline my workflow a lot faster. The last thing I wanted to talk about is how accurate the color is, because they specifically, when they were improving this tablet, this is one thing they improved on. I really appreciated this as someone who is very picky and detailed about their colors. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted this little animation sequence to have really vibrant colors, and usually when I use my iPad and I draw on there, or when I use the school's tablets, I realized there is always a color difference between what I see on my screen compared to what I actually made. So that was something that I really appreciate with this tablet, because what I draw was what I saw. Now let's talk about things that I less liked about this tablet, which is not a lot, but just one picky thing, is that in the beginning of the video I mentioned I do need a home setup, and I was hoping that this tablet could be my home setup tablet. However, spending the last 2 days using this tablet, I realized that the screen is a little small for me to call it a home setup. Don't get me wrong, I really like this tablet, and I believe this is the only tablet that Huion has that is this color, which I really, really love. However, I think 13 inches is a bit too small for me to use it every single day as a job, because I'm going to be staring at my screen so much throughout the day when I do return from school and draw from home a lot. I feel like this wouldn't be a problem if it was just illustration, but in animation I really do require a bigger screen because of the timeline, which is obstructing a lot of areas on the screen, which the actual drawing area I have is very, very small. I do say this is a perfect tablet for beginners, or people who would treat this as a hobby, or people who would use this for illustration. But as for animation, although I love many functions about this tablet, I think I would consider using a bigger tablet for my home display, even though I am so in love with this pink color. So I guess at the end of the day I would choose function over form, but really I think this is a great option for people who don't mind a smaller screen, which isn't even that small. It's basically the same size as my computer, but I think just for me working this full-time in the future, I would want a bigger screen myself. So yeah, that concludes the review for this tablet. As I mentioned earlier, all the details of this product will be in the links in the description. And of course, go join my giveaway where you can win this tablet for free. So thank you so much to Huion for sending me this tablet. They literally mentioned in their email to me, like, I know you're gonna like this pink color, which I really do love. And with that, I'll see you in next week's video. Bye bye!